You're listening to FFOP Radio.
Reach the
Hey everybody, and welcome to the show. My name's Dave, and this is a Fistful of Podcasts from FFOPRadio.com. Back for another great week. Breaking from format again. We not a classic episode this time. Let me introduce you to my co-host for this episode. First time on the show, we got Dirty Randy of the Dirty Randy Studios on the show. Welcome, Randy.
Hey, everybody.
Nice. So, Randy, this is our part 2 to our first part, which is a video. So if you're listening to this and you are confused, part 1 is a YouTube video that I'll probably link in the show notes. So if you want to see that first or listen to that first, go there, because this is the second half of a story. Just to catch everybody up, Randy and I have been breaking down the Epic of Gilgamesh. Right, Randy?
Yes, sir. A nice, interesting story.
Have you been enjoying it so far?
Yeah. So far, so good.
Like, where we've broken it down so far. Like, I think, refresh my memory, I'm almost positive that we covered the death of Enkidu.
Yeah, that's right where we ended off.
Okay.
Was, Enkidu dealing with the curse and then perishing.
So we'll sort of refresh everybody's memory as far as that goes. So let's cut to right before Enkidu is almost dead. Like Gilgamesh's last speech to Enkidu. And he's basically telling him, hey dude, the whole town is mourning you. Everybody who's ever poured you a beer, everybody who's ever shaken your hand, they are crying. Every man in town is growing their hair long, which I imagine is a Sumerian thing.
Yeah, it has to be.
They say, everybody, to mourn you, we're growing our hair long like women. I'm like, okay. That's something you do when you mourn a friend, apparently. So
yeah.
That's confusing. But whatever, it's 4,000 years old. So this big long speech, and Enkidu, when you are dead, everybody's gonna mourn. I'm gonna mourn. It sucks. Everybody's gonna cry, and blah blah blah. Huge long, basically a laundry list of people who will miss him. And spoiler alert, it's everybody.
Yeah, he's so loved by the town.
Yes, and that's the thing. He's so loved by the town because not only has Enkidu calmed Gilgamesh, he has turned Gilgamesh from a tyrant into a benevolent leader.
Yeah.
But he's a superstar, man. He's made from the gods. He's a wild man. Everybody loves him, despite the fact that he's got horns and he's essentially a monster, right?
Yeah, more or less.
So everybody is just really crestfallen, and so Gilgamesh reaches out, he touches Enkidu, he goes, oh crap, his heart stopped, he's totally 100% dead, this sucks. So he does the craziest stuff. So he starts, after he realizes Enkidu has died, he starts ripping his own hair out and throwing it around the tent that the town made for Enkidu to die in. So he's ripping his hair out and throwing it everywhere. And then he rips his clothes off and throws those on the ground.
Yeah.
So now we have a Gilgamesh whose hair is patchy because he's ripped a lot of it out and thrown it on the floor. And now he's nude and he takes to the town, essentially. He's weeping and wailing and gnashing, and he's just letting it all out all over the place, letting everybody know that, Enkidu has died. And he does this for 7 days and nights. The only thing that stops Gilgamesh from wailing and moaning over Enkidu's corpse is he says the worms have taken to it. So, like, he's like, basically, in no uncertain terms, maggots have showed up. We got to get rid of this dude.
Yeah. Maggots infected him, and they forcibly took the body away from Gilgamesh.
Yeah, and it's so crazy. Like, and whatever. He's, the town hero, but as committed as Gilgamesh was to him, when he saw the maggots, he's like, okay, it's time to bury my friend.
Yeah, I'm out.
Yeah. So he goes nuts, man. Like, maybe he never. Well, okay. So since Enkidu is his first friend, I can see why his death is like a mega gut punch.
Yeah, that was like kind of he was kind of his first and only friend from the way it goes. And then, I'm alone again.
Right. And that's what sucks. Like, when the story starts, he is already the king of Uruk. And the people are already hating him because he's a tyrant. So we don't know how it started or what happened. But what we do know is, like, everything is fine now. And it was Enkidu's doing it. Now he's dead. So Gilgamesh makes this pledge that when Enkidu is dead, he's going to just take to the field. He's going to wander. He's going to whine all the time. He's going to cry and weep and moan. And that's something he says, too. Like, at one point he says, I cried for 7 days and it didn't bring you back. And I'd be like, well, yeah, like, what the fuck? Like, and that's the thing. Gilgamesh is still like such an entitled character. Like, as grounded as he becomes, he still thinks that, like, if he cries enough, that, like, someone like Shamash maybe will step in and be like, oh man, that sucks. Sorry, dude. Bing. I'll fix it.
Yeah, here's your friend back.
Yeah, but they're the ones who wanted him dead. So what were the odds of them changing their minds? Oh, okay. So I did forget this. I feel like one of the gods was super sad. Maybe it was Ishtar. I feel like every time something bad happens, Ishtar like shows up and gets weepy for a little bit.
I don't remember if Ishtar was involved in this one.
Maybe not this one, but she shows up a lot.
Yeah, she's definitely an emotional god.
Yeah, like all pantheons across every culture, they are very childish because you're going off of what you know, I guess, and your god's going to be based off of you because you're basically building it out of you. But it's amazing to see all of these primitive cultures have their deities be like such dicks. Like, why would you want to have these people be in charge? Because they're such assholes to one another.
Yeah.
But
It's a
whatever.
good way to put it.
So Gilgamesh is sad, and now he's super afraid of death.
Yeah.
His idea is he's like he's basically gonna just have a midlife crisis. He's gonna wander the forest. I don't know why or how he hears of this dude. Maybe you remember I can't even, like, his name is...
I wonder if it has to do with, like, Akidu's, like, death dreams and when he was, like, cursing the harlot and stuff.
Maybe.
I think it was Shamash was like, oh, this is what's going to happen to Gilgamesh after you die. And I wonder if it was, like, prophecy or if Gilgamesh just, like, it's like, oh, I'm going to go see this guy.
That's the thing. I don't know, because it's sort of unclear, number one. The translation we're listening to, I think, is a little off also. So, what's his name?
Etupishtim.
Etupishtim.
Yeah, Etupishtim.
Okay. Yeah, so that guy. So Gilgamesh
the
hears...
far away.
Yeah, he is this guy. He lives in the quote-unquote far away and has gained eternal life. And that is what Gilgamesh now lusts after, because again, Enkidu's death really like drove the nail home that Gilgamesh is immortal. Like I don't know why he forgot that he was a plain old mortal, because we've known from day one, like the gods keep telling him, but whatever. Like, and he must have seen people die because he was a tyrant. He must have killed tons of people. Like, just because his friends die, like his one friend dies, he has this like crippling panic. Like, I don't know. The second half really leaves you wanting, man.
I mean, that could lead to the, he's a tyrant and, he's too good for death. Because he's definitely an entitled asshole at the start of the story.
But it feels like this is a huge overreaction to the death of one friend. And not only that, Enkidu and Gilgamesh are now and have been good dudes for a long time.
Yep.
Like the whole town is sad for Enkidu. Has Gilgamesh not gotten another friend in all that time? He rules Uruk. Like he can't find another bro to hang with?
No, he will have another equal.
Maybe not another equal, but I mean, at least something. Find something, for God. Don't just wander around. Like, basically, he wanders around killing lions and eating elk and ibex, he says, all this other crazy stuff.
Yep.
It's insane.
Wearing their skin.
Yeah, that's the thing. He gives up clothes to wear, I guess, just raw animal skins that he rips off these things, because he's not a tanner. He's a tyrant.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of took it as he started the journey to, like, I kind of felt like he was going to find Enkidu, and then, like, he just kind of stopped being the plan.
He's not trying to find Enkidu because he knows Enkidu is dead.
Yeah, but I don't know if he was trying to, like, find the gods and, get something out of Etupishtan. To find him.
He definitely was. But here's the thing. So Etnapishtim, or whatever his name is, has immortality. So Gilgamesh prays to the moon. And I think he maybe pours out some wine or whatever. They love doing that for their gods. And then he goes to sleep and he wakes up and he's surrounded by lions because he's on this journey to see this guy with eternal life. Is a non-story point. He just wakes up, he's surrounded by lions, he murders them all, and he's like, well, time to keep going.
Yeah, pretty much.
The lions must be an analogy, or they must be more fleshed out on the original source, because they just feel like, why?
Yeah, I think they were just added there to, I don't know, so he could get the skins, so they could explain that away.
Maybe, but like so many of them, like he has to kill. He says like a pack of lions.
Yeah, like he was literally surrounded.
Right, and he's already clad in the skins of beasts. Like he's been saying that. He basically gives up civilization once Enkidu dies. He goes back into the wild, and it really like sucks the life out of him. So he's off on this journey and gets to he's headed toward these two mountains called the Mashu.
Yeah, Mashu, I think.
So these two mountains, which is like the gateway to. It's convoluted. It's basically another way to Shamash in the end. So instead of the forest, so basically it's another forest. So when Humbaba guarded the forest, because that was a gateway to the gods, these two mountains is also another way to get to the gods, essentially.
Yeah,
but it's not guarded by Humbaba. It's guarded by scorpions that are also described as half man, half dragon.
Yeah, the scorpion men that are half man, half dragon.
That's a real D&D creature. You can probably picture it, I imagine. So Gilgamesh shows up, sees all these scorpion men, and he goes, "Whoa, I'm scared." And then he's like, "No,
there's only two.
There's only two?
There's only two of them. There's one and his mate.
That's it. I couldn't tell how many there were, so...
Yeah,
but that's the thing. It really doesn't even matter. There could have been a million, because he shows up and these scorpions are like, "Dude, get the fuck this is like the river of the dead is over here, and if you touch the water, it'll kill you. What are you doing here?" Yeah,
people don't belong here.
Yeah, and Gilgamesh goes, "I'm Gilgamesh," and they go, "What? No, you're not Gilgamesh." He's like, because he's been wandering so long. He's like totally sucked out. All of his muscle is gone.
Yeah.
He's road weary. They describe it in such an odd way. It's like his face has been burned by heat and cold. And essentially, he's a shadow of his former self. So these scorpion dudes don't believe that he is Gilgamesh. And he's like, oh, trust me, I totally am. But here's the thing. My story is, Enkidu is dead, and I'm sad and dealing with death now.
Yeah.
Crying didn't bring him back. So what I've got to do is get to Etnapishtim so that I can get him to tell me how he got eternal life, because he's apparently the only human ever to get it. Ever. Then the scorpions sort of throw up another couple of roadblocks. They go, no mortal can make it. Like, it's 12 leagues of darkness past here.
Yeah.
Like
Pure darkness.
Once you pass these mountains, you have what's a league? I don't remember. I think it's between 3 and 4 miles.
Yeah,
right?
I can't remember what we said it was.
I forget, but let's say 3 miles just to be on the safe side. So 12 leagues. So what's 12 times 3? 36 miles of pure darkness. And that's all the scorpions offer by way of obstacle.
Yeah.
And like,
it's far away.
Like, Humbaba would not let them touch his forest because it was too close to the gods. And the scorpion dudes, like, as long as you can say you're fine with walking in the dark, they'll say, all right, on your way. Like, no mortal has ever passed here, but knock yourself out, I guess.
Yeah, in my head, I pictured them like standing at the entrance of a cave. And they're like, oh, you can't go through here. It's dark. And he's like, oh, that's cool. And they're like, okay,
Right.
see you later.
That's what it kind of feels like. It's just these 2 mountains and then this cave, or, whatever, however you want to describe it or think of it. And then it's like the most boring, like, we could have cut so much out. So between the first league and the 7th league, it's completely dark. He can see nothing ahead of him and nothing behind him. Mm-hmm. And they keep you updated for every league he travels.
It's a minute and 27 seconds of your life you won't get back.
Oh my God. And that's just the first 7 leagues. League 1, it's total dark. Can't see ahead, can't see behind. League 2, oh my God. 7 leagues, whatever. So nothing happens until League 8. So what is that?
League 8, he screams because he's in the darkness.
No, I mean, like, how many miles?
24 miles?
Yeah. So after 24 miles of pitch black, Gilgamesh cries out because it's weighing on him like a granite fez. But it does nothing. He just screams and he's like, okay. So at League 9, another 3 miles, he feels wind on his face, and that's our check-in. He can still see nothing.
Yeah, he can't see anything, but he can get the wind.
Nothing. He can't see anything, feels a wind. League 10, nothing of note happens, but we still check in. Oh my God, it's like so much. This feels like they were really stretching for content, and we'll get into that later also because holy crap. There's another one. The repetition. So whatever. League 11, he sees light, which is strange. So he can see a light 3 miles before the end, because at the 12th league, he finally sees the sun.
Makes it out.
Oh, my God. So at this point in the story, we get our 1 millionth reference to lapis lazuli, because when he comes out, it's everywhere. Everything... Basically, when in the epic, when you're hearing everything is lapis lazuli is a blue stone. So that's just saying all the flowers, everything is blue to denote, yes, here's the thing. Back in our oldie times, blue is the most expensive color. So since everything is blue, it's obviously very haughty.
Yeah, I had to look up what lapis lazuli was since they mention it so much. In this story.
So that's the thing. Yeah, the bull of heaven's horns are made of lapis lazuli. Like, Gilgamesh has like a bunch of shit with lapis lazuli all over it, and it's just a blue stone. Like, you can buy it at any rock shop, or like I've got umpteen dozen pieces of it. It's pretty, but basically worthless.
Yeah, it's just like a rock, right?
Yeah, basically it's just a rock. So I guess Shamash at this point sees Gilgamesh and wants to know what he's doing because he says, you will not get eternal life. It is not for man. It's God's only. You're not going to get it. And so Gilgamesh's counter argument here is he wants to see the sun. And I guess that works on his dad type God character figure.
Yeah, he's just like, okay, see you later, son.
Shamash shows up to be like, hey, Gilgamesh, I'm going to tell you now, check this out. You are never going to be granted eternal life. I'm a god. I know these things. We have never granted it outside of this one dude. And I'm telling you, we're not going to do it for you because he did us a solid. So, fucking forget it. And he goes, and heeds nothing, just continues on his journey.
Yeah.
The gods themselves are telling him, knock it the fuck off. Like, get over it. Live your life. Don't waste the rest of your life being sad about your death, which hasn't come yet. And he's like, fuck you. I need eternal life. And so Gilgamesh starts to become a dick again. Because on his journey, he comes across a young lady who is a winemaker. And so when, she's doing some chores or whatever, she sees Gilgamesh on the road, essentially. This wild dude, he's been living in the wild. He's covered in animal skins. He looks like crap. So he's a startling figure. And remember, he had to work to be crap because he's 2/3 God.
Yeah.
And he has perfect body and perfect beauty, and he's super tall. So the fact that he's let all of that go, he must be a really crazy looking dude. And all this woman does is get a little scared and go inside and shut the door.
She was a god.
Was she?
Yeah, she was the wine, she was the god of making wine.
Oh, I thought she was okay. So she was the goddess of making wine. Okay, yeah,
Sarudi or whatever her name was.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Sarade.
Yeah. So yeah, Gilgamesh is on his thing. He goes to the goddess of wine, and he's such a dick to her. He's
a brat.
Yes, she shuts the door, and. I feel like he wouldn't even have noticed her if she didn't do that. Did you get that vibe, or am I crazy?
I think it was the locking the door part that pissed him off.
Yeah, he's just on the road to his end goal. This woman had the gall to not only go inside, but lock the door. And he runs up to it and starts shaking it. And he's like, what's your fucking problem? He's a belligerent, he's lost it.
I'll kick this door in.
Yeah, he's such a dick. This poor goddess. And how often... Keep in mind, when you're a goddess, you don't get hassled by every Tom, Dick, or Harry because you've got a couple of scorpions, so theoretically at the gate to keep dickheads like this out.
Yeah.
So
you're not used to just seeing people walking down the road.
Yeah, I can only imagine, and that doubles it. Imagine living in a gated community, and then you just see a dude let's say he looks like Christopher Lloyd from Dennis the Menace. You'd be like, this is suspicious. And then if you went inside and then that dude attacked your door for going inside, you'd feel justified.
Yeah. Oh, I did the right thing here.
Yeah, but what? She should have words with those scorpions. I would be insanely pissed because the thing is, he, basically, I feel like he forces his way in.
To her house?
Yeah, right. Or he barks at her and he's like, don't you know who I am? He's like, I'm Gilgamesh.
Yeah, that's kind of how I took it. Was he's just yelling at her from the other side of the door.
Right, yeah. He's like, you bitch. He's basically every white trash dude in a white beater. He's like, I'm Gilgamesh, goddammit. He's every washed up celebrity. And she goes, no, you're not Gilgamesh. You look like shit. You're road weary. Your face is yada, yada, yada. And it's just this repetition of you look like shit, essentially.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh yeah, I hung out with Enkidu until maggots took him. I helped kill the bull of heaven. I did this, I did that. And she goes, okay, well, cool.
Yeah, why shouldn't I look like shit?
Yeah, and so
I did do all these things.
since she is a god, she then backs up literally everybody's assertions up until this point. And she says, there is no eternal life save for the gods. So, take this time to relax, like get over it and just be a happy dude. And he says, I cannot be happy. And Kidu is dead. All I can think about is death.
Yeah, worry about eating good food and living your life. Don't worry about dying.
Yeah, that's everybody he encounters is like, come on, man, everybody dies. We all get this. They knew this 4,000 years ago. Get the fuck over it and have a blast while you're alive, because seriously, this is the beginning of civilization. Like, this is, as no other time before it has it been better to be a human being. You could live behind a wall in a stone structure with a fire and not be a subject of predation in the night.
Yeah.
We've got booze and we've got grain. We have got storages and we've got like livestock. Live it the fuck up. And repeatedly, Gilgamesh is like, I don't want to, because Enkidu is dead and he was my friend.
I'm alone.
So he says, tell me where Utnapishtim is. And she goes, okay, it's over an ocean that you literally cannot cross because the ocean is made of death?
Yeah, he won't make it. I felt like part of the ocean was made of death.
I felt like the whole thing, because he says, he tells her, I'll cross the waters if I need to. Just tell me where he is. But if you don't, I'll eventually find him because I'll never give up.
Yeah, I'll never stop looking for him.
And that's what she says. She says, there's this body of water that you cannot, even if there are parts that you can touch without dying, it's so far across you'll never be able to swim, and it's just an endless void of water.
Yeah.
But then she cracks, because I feel like this is the impression I got, and maybe it's just because I was reading into it a little too much. I feel like he kind of took her hostage in her own home. Because I feel like at one point she opens up, she's like, you're Gilgamesh, and I feel like he just sort of like goes intense on her and won't leave her until she cracks.
Yeah, I feel like he probably like pressured her into it. I don't know if he like took her hostage is the right
maybe
term.
Not hostage, but like he was an intense, annoying asshole that wouldn't leave.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, like I'm not saying hostage like she like tell me or else, but like he was hammering her and would not leave, and so she gives. She has to, because what else are you gonna do? Okay, she goes, go to a man named Urshanabi. Urshanabi is the essentially he is the equivalent of the River Styx boatsman
the ferryman,
whose name I am forgetting. Charon. He is this world's Charon. So Urshanabi, he takes this boat from here to where the gods are across this ocean of death. This felt like a really dick move that came out of literally nowhere.
Yeah, I would agree.
Like, so Gilgamesh, after getting exactly what he wants, she says, okay, I can't promise you anything. Go to Urshanabi. If you can convince Urshanabi to take you on his boat, great. If you can't, you'll have to go home. And that's the best I can give you. And he flies into a rage. They say he flies into a rage and he picks up both of his weapons, runs off toward Urshanabi's boat, which is past this forest, and essentially destroys his boat.
Yeah, breaks his boat.
In a blind rage, after getting advice from the goddess of wine, he runs off and destroys Urshanabi's boat. And you would think the first thing that Urshanabi would do would be like, hey man, that's my whole reason for being. I am pissed.
Yeah, you fucked my boat up.
But
like that's my job, my livelihood.
And I don't know if maybe Urshanabi was just off taking a piss, because he completely misses, or at least I got the impression that he completely missed his boat getting destroyed.
No, I agree. It felt like Gilgamesh showed up at his camp and Urshanabi wasn't around.
Yeah,
and
like
Gilgamesh got mad and broke his boat.
Yeah, like he was off taking a piss. He shows back up, like adjusting his rope, and there is Gilgamesh, a weapon in each hand. His boat is destroyed, and Urshanabi's first question is, "Who are you?" He says,
what is
he
this?
says, who are you and why do you look so terrible? Why do you look like you wander this valley? Everybody tells him you look like you have sorrow in your heart and you look like shit.
Yeah. You look like complete trash.
Yeah. So we get the same, Gilgamesh gives the same rehashing. Enkidu is dead. I am sad. I'm afraid of death. I'm looking for Etnapishtim. And I heard that you have a boat that we can use to get across the river. And so Urshanabi, like, he's not mad. Like, this is his only thing. He has one thing. He is the boatman over the river of death and can go back and forth between the realm of God and man. And he goes, here's the thing, Gilgamesh, buddy. The thing that I use to get across this river of death that will even kill me if I touch it was the boat that you destroyed.
Yeah. The stuff that keeps me from death, the stuff that stops me from touching death is the stuff you just destroyed.
Yeah, and he's just like, so guess what you have to do? Since you destroyed my boat, and guess what? We're so close to a forest. You, Gilgamesh, have to go into the forest and collect 120 logs, each 60 cubits in length. Yeah. And each log he's got to coat in something called bitumen, which by inference alone, I'm going to say is probably some sort of sap mixture that they used to watertight their boats back in the Sumerian period. That's only a guess. It could be.
That's kind of the vibe I got as well.
Yeah, it's got to be something. So he points to the forest and he's like, knock yourself out. So our dude Gilgamesh runs into the forest. Buddy. He collects all the logs, and I imagine this probably took a while because you can't just, I imagine, collect raw bitumen in the woods, and you're going to have to cut all the limbs off. So then there's a bizarre instructional section where Urshanabi says, okay, grab the first log and put it over here, grab the second log and put it over here, grab the third log, and he goes on for like the first 10 logs like that.
Yeah.
Whatever. But guess what? With these 120 logs, 60 cubits in length, all now slathered in this goo, and they are now lashed together, we now have Urshanabi's boat rebuilt. So here's what I thought. I thought what was going to happen was they were going to get up to some shenanigans as they crossed the ocean of death. I thought maybe they're going to encounter something. They'll see eye to eye on something, some ghoulish phantasm or sea creature. Nope, nothing happens.
Literally nothing.
They basically travel across the ocean quickly and in silence. Oh, that's another thing that Gilgamesh had to do. He had to make sails. I don't know where he got the material, but he just says he made the sails.
Well, it sounds like... See, I took it as they built the raft and they used the 120 poles to push themselves through the water until they ran out of poles, and then he used his clothing to make a sail.
Oh, is that how you took it?
That's how I understood it, because I think they go through this thing where they work for 7 days to build the raft.
Oh,
and then they do the 10. He put in the first stick.
Okay, yeah, all right. So
yeah, that's how I took it.
Okay, so I was of two minds, because as you say that, every time I listened to it a few times, every time I listened to it, I would get a different interpretation of it, because I felt when he said, use these rods, I thought, okay, he's pushing them across the ocean.
Yeah.
But then he says that he puts all the logs down, and 7 days later they have a boat.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. I'm thinking it. I did get that interpretation where it did come across when he spoke it that they were using it to push the boat across, but the boat had not been built yet.
Yeah. So I feel like they had to make the 126 and then also build the boat.
No, because I think that's what I'm trying to get across to you is when Urshanabi is telling Gilgamesh to put down this rod here, this log there, this log there.
Yeah.
He's instructing him to build the boat, but it sounds like he's instructing him how to push the boat across the...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Right.
I think... and
I get what you're saying.
it took me a couple times to get that interpretation, but I think that's right, because the very next passage is after he gets the 120 logs set, 7 days later, it takes them basically 7 days to lash them and build the boat.
Yeah.
Because he builds the sails, and that's where I get sketchy, because they are just two dudes in a forest. Where are you getting the material? So I do remember now he did take his clothes and turn them into sails.
Yeah, from what I think it says is that he like stood there holding the clothes out, and that's what they use as a sail.
Or maybe because I feel like at some point there was a reference to the lions he killed, so maybe he had their
they
skins.
using the pelts.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
so that they weren't in vain after all. I totally forgot that. All the lions he killed, he uses their skins later. It's such a crazy, like, god dang. Like, without Enkidu, this story is bonkers. Without like him, like with his powerful hand dismissed, he is rudderless, literally.
Yeah. The second half was definitely a slug of a story compared to the first half.
But we're starting to get to the spicy bits. So, again, Urshanabi and Gilgamesh have an uneventful trip across the sea. And from where Utnapishtim is, he sees them coming, and he already knows why he's there.
Yeah.
And he's like, dude, listen. Because I assume being the only immortal human, he must get this shit a lot. Because again, I'm going to reiterate, the scorpions at the gate said no mortals can get past here. But it seems pretty easy for our dude so far. Like, he has come up against nothing. Like, if he hadn't destroyed Urshanabi's boat, he would have encountered zero impedance so far.
Yeah.
But whatever. He's his own worst enemy without Enkidu. So, we get another overview and rehashing of this shit. Utnapishtim says there is no permanence, like rocks, mountains, trees, you, me, the beasts of the field, the wheat, everything goes away. It dies. So please, just get, like, seriously, this is rehash number 10.
It.
Get it, dude. Spend less time, like, being a dick to people and enjoy life and just whatever. Move on. You got your super strength. Use it while you can. Because remember, you're 2/3 God. Quit being such a baby. Fuck.
Yeah, essentially.
Oh, my God. And so, this is where we get a large diversion because we get the reason Utnapishtim has immortality is because he is the lone survivor of this this mythology's version of the flood.
Yeah.
So let's just check in here. There are like historical records and geological records to show that there was a flood in that area. So there's a lot of myths based around that flood. So obviously we're talking about the same flood that is the Noah flood from the Bible, or if you're familiar with the Torah, yada. It's the same flood is basically what I'm getting at. This is your BC flood. He is the lone survivor. And so whatever. Here's the thing.
I didn't feel like he was a lone survivor.
No. His family.
I felt like him and his. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Him and his lineage. So the reason. It's so petty. Like, it's ridiculously petty, and yet it's a genocide that needn't be.
It really is.
So, the humans were growing and growing here on Earth and getting rowdier and rowdier and louder, and were messing with the gods. They were basically being bad neighbors. This angered the gods, and the god of all the old gods, the god of the stream, and this and that and the other, and yada, 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 we're getting sick of these rowdy humans. So Enlil, the king god, I guess, basically, the rabble rouser, he got sick and basically convinced all the other gods that they should wipe out humanity.
Yeah.
Ugh. Like, over a noise complaint.
Yeah.
Like, real overreaction. And that's the thing, like, these gods basically created these humans, and now they're completely, all of them, all on board to just wipe them out. So they go, okay. So, after a time, our buddy Utnapishtim, some of the lower gods, I believe, for some reason, reach out to him.
One of them was, I think it was like the god of the hunt or something,
right.
Was like against it and warned him.
Yeah, there is derision among the gods, and some of them don't want their buddies on Earth to die, and so we have, basically double agents.
Yeah.
They tell Utnapishtim, check this shit out. Everybody upstairs is angry, and you got to do something about it. So he says, make a boat. Make a big ass boat, an ark, if you will. And so rightfully, our dude, Utnapishtim, because the plan is, our lower god says the plan is, the earth is going to completely flood. Like, that seems to be the easiest way the gods have concocted to wipe out humanity. So make a huge boat, get all the animals you can, all the seeds you can, basically grab everything within your power, all your gold, your clothes, your slaves, your family, your friends, get them all.
Yeah, take it all.
Like, because they're serious. They're going to try and wipe your ass out. So you're going to have to prepare. Take 2 of every animal at least. So our dude Utnapishtim, he goes, okay, well, you're telling me this. Should I tell anybody else, or should I have an excuse for why I am doing this so they don't freak out and try to survive too? Like, it's basically, He's like, what should I tell people if they want to survive as well? So our lower god, he goes, okay, but whatever. Tell them that you want to move down to the river and live on a big houseboat because you like it better and the land is better for farming. They'll totally believe you.
They'll buy it 100%.
Yeah, I'm sure no one in your family or friend circle will squeal. So we then get the dimensions of this boat. We have it is 7 decks, 9 sections per deck, and it is 120 cubits squared. And that's, maybe I read this differently than you, but it read to me as if the boat was literally square.
Yeah, that's kind of how I took it too.
Because he did say make a square, because the bottom was the command center, whatever they called it in old timey times. He said that was 120 cubit square. And then there were 6 decks on top of that. And it just felt like he built a big square boat. I was like, okay, whatever.
I had a hard time visualizing exactly what they were trying to get across.
Yeah, but whatever. So, but our dude Utnapishtim is rich, number 1, obviously. And 2, he's generous because he gets all of his favorite tradespeople, all of his favorite craftsmen, all of his relatives, everybody he knows and likes pitches in. And so for 7 days and nights, Utnapishtim keeps the food and the booze flowing. And so after the 7th day, they, woohoo, hey, we got ourselves a big square ark.
Did they say how long it took for the gods to bring the flood? Because I felt like it was kind of just an open amount of time.
No, yeah, okay. So everybody gets loaded up, and it's incredibly quick, Randy. Like, this is not a biblical 40 days and 40 nights style bullshit long ass flood. The Sumerian gods fuck around 0%. Because it says that it rained for 1 whole day. That's it.
No. I meant along the lines of, like, how much advance notice did Utnapishtim have to build his boat?
Oh, he had a week, dude.
It was okay.
Yeah.
So they said it was a week?
Yeah,
okay.
because during the 7 days he was building the boat, he was amassing all of the grain and all the yada, yada, yada. So when it was done, they loaded it and it struck. So it rained for one day, but it rained so hard that it scared away every other minor god and major god. Like, it was so violent, it scared the gods away from Earth.
Yeah, they all cowered in fear.
Yeah. And so yeah, he was serious. Enlil saw his plan through. He literally wiped out the entire globe sans one ark. According to this mythology, little did we know, Noah right around the corner, apparently. So after it rained for the 24 hours, the storm, however, continued for a further 7 days. Now, that seems like real overkill, because if you rain, let's be real. It rained enough to scare the gods that created Earth away from Earth. So everything on Earth is now dead.
Yeah. You guys got it.
But you keep the storm, you keep the tempest brewing for a further a week straight, essentially. Like, this guy is petty as shit. But Ishtar definitely shows up now. So she shows up and is super sad. She gets super bummed out that, and she even, in the epic, they even mentioned that she was on board with the complete genociding of humanity. Like, basically mob justice swayed the gods, and now they were all getting buyer's remorse. And Ishtar was sad. Whatever. Like, it's always buyer's remorse. So when the storm is over, this is an interesting description. He says that, everybody gets basically on the deck, I imagine, to look at and survey the damage. And it's nothing but water as far as the eye can see. And he says, all of mankind had been turned to clay. And I wonder what that means.
I was thinking about that too, and I was kind of just wondering if it meant like mud had kind of run amok everywhere. Well, but I feel like it means more. Yeah,
I'm wondering if, like, in the torrent, this is probably reading too much into it, but in the torrent, the 7-day torrent, it basically would have ripped every piece of clothing off of everybody. So when the dust had settled, we've got a bunch of people, and they're all going to be Sumerians, so probably roughly all the same olive complexion. And so I'm sure what it looked like with all the corpses spread out, it just looked like mud, because they'd all be wet and moving with the water, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I think happened, is like they looked out, and instead of seeing water, it was the mud of the clay of human corpses.
I could see that.
Maybe I'm too deep, but I think it makes it better. Our dudes and dudettes, everyone on this ark, Utnapishtim's crew, they somehow they mention a mountain, and they somehow get themselves to it and get stuck to it.
Yeah.
So
and it held fast.
Yeah, they held fast, and they say, yeah, great. Now we just got to wait for all this water to clear out, and we'll be totally cool. So it takes 7 days. Everything that happens in 7 days.
Yeah, everything is 7 days long.
They spend 7 days on the mountain. So our boy, Utnapishtim, decides, okay, it's time to check out some stuff. So he throws a dove to check, go look for land. It comes back. He goes, okay. The next day, sends out a swallow. Go look for land. It comes back. He goes, okay. So next day, takes out a raven. The raven goes out. It eats. It cavorts. It capers. It does not return. So we know that beyond the mountain where they are stuck, there is land returning, which
there's something.
Feel like you should be able to see. Like, if you're on the mountain, you would be able to see the water lowering, but whatever, it's mythology.
Yeah, like they should have had a pretty good view of what was going on.
Yeah, so whatever. That's nuts. Utnapishtim gathers up all his relatives. He's like, it's time to make a sacrifice to the gods, because they gave us primo spoiler alerts. So it's now time to thank them because we would not be alive without them.
Yeah.
So they set up a big ass party, essentially. Like they bring wine and food, and it's like this huge party for the gods, and everyone shows up. I got the impression that it was kind of like this weird, like the vibe of the party was awkward because it was like everybody was like, "Hey, thanks for saving our lives back there," and meanwhile, these are the people who tried to kill you and wanted to kill you over noise.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for warning me, but, could you have not?
It's a little awkward. So everyone shows up, and I feel like everyone also doesn't want to take the food, or they're like, sort of mingling. But Enlil, our rabble rouser, shows up, and he gets food. But all of our other gods are now really upset that he got them to go along with a plan to kill humanity. So and they're just like sort of having rough dinner conversation. They're like, the feel I got was like, since they're all gods and there's nothing they can do really to each other, they're just like, hey man, that sucked. And now it's going to be socially awkward. And these guys are our friends. And you made us like, I just felt like high school sort of.
Yeah.
But it all shakes out because Enlil, to make up for this, as like a, hey, sorry about it for killing everyone except you and everyone you know, Enlil gives Utnapishtim eternal life. Seems like a steep price.
Yeah.
And like, why? Like, I don't understand. Instead of, like, keep in mind, these are the gods who just wiped out humanity except for our boy, his fam, and Noah somewhere else in the locale, and whatever other mythology revolves around the flood. So he could have been like, hey, I'll bring everybody back, but better. I'll do this. I'll do that. Basically, every avenue is open to him because he is a god. And all he does is give one dude immortality. And it essentially ruins his life.
Yeah.
So that sucks. So his prize for getting a spoiler and saving his family, saving the human race, his prize for saving the human race is immortality and constant boredom. And I'm sure being waylaid by dicks who somehow get past all the guards. Like, what a life. Oh, poor.
Just walk past the scorpions.
Oh, Utnapishtim, like, what a shitty life. And now
Didn't they say he was kind of exiled there?
Yeah, well, since he's an immortal, like,
yeah,
where
like
else
he has to live there.
Yeah, everyone he knows and knew is dead. Like, because keep in mind, the flood happened a long time ago. Like, he's telling a story of, because where we're at now, I can't remember Gilgamesh's city. Uruk. Because Uruk is a full city. Like, we have a populated Earth now. So it happened long enough ago that this tiny boatload of people, propagated the entire species again.
Yeah, they brought it back.
And so, whatever. Gilgamesh is pretty upset. So he's like, well, I can't. Basically, you cannot replicate that. The gods are not going to make another goof, and you cannot save humanity again, and so you cannot be bestowed eternal life. However, I don't know why, because he can't, I don't feel like he can fulfill this, because it's not his power to give, but he says to Gilgamesh, if you, again, rearing its ugly head, if you can stay awake for 7 days and nights, he'll grant him eternal life.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, so at every step of the way, everyone is telling him, no, it doesn't exist. It is a literal impossibility. He says, bullshit. You guys are feeding. He's basically getting gaslit at every step of the way, because when he gets to Utnapishtim, apparently he has that power. So cool. But so almost immediately, literally almost immediately, Utnapishtim says, good news, hang out by this rock, stay awake for 7 days and 7 nights, and then I'll snap my fingers, I'll do the whole clicking of the ruby slippers, You will be immortal.
Yeah, boom.
He falls asleep minutes after taking the challenge. And
it almost sounded like he fell asleep during the conversation of the challenge.
I feel like they were walking toward the boulder he was supposed to sit next to. Gilgamesh sits down, and as he's like, okay, after the 7th day, you'll, and he's like, and he's like, God damn it. And so it's funny. So the Utnapishtim's wife comes out, and she's like, well, what the, like, wake his ass up and get him out of here. Like, I don't.
Yeah, send him back to his country.
He fell asleep. And so Utnapishtim has a bizarre logic that works. So since obviously this is before time was invented, Utnapishtim says when he wakes up, he's going to claim that it was only a second and that he should get a redo. I'm going to let him sleep. So every day, wife, bake a loaf of bread. We'll put it next to his head, and every day there'll be a new loaf. So when he does wake up, because they're expecting him to sleep more than one day, apparently.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he does. He sleeps for 7 days. Gilgamesh, after taking a challenge to stay awake for 7 days and nights, sleeps for 7 days and nights. What a, like, and the only thing that keeps him, or rather that wakes him, is Utnapishtim finally gets fed up. After a week, he shakes him.
Yeah, he touches him.
And Gilgamesh goes, whoa, dude, I just fell asleep. Redo. And so Utnapishtim points to the loaves. He's like, here, look at these 7 loaves. He's like, here's the first one. It's as hard as a rock. Here's the second one. It's hard as leather. Here's the third one. It's soggy for some reason. I don't know where that one was kept. The fourth one, mildew. Good Lord, it's awful. The 5th one is stale. The 6th one is fresh. And the 7th one is literally coming out of the oven as we speak.
It's still sitting in the embers.
Yeah, like check out the wife over there. She has got the pan ready to pull it out. And so Gilgamesh is like, well, shit. And I guess he just accepts it. Like,
yeah, there's no argument on his part.
Yeah, like he did fall asleep. And I, for 7 days, I would be like, yeah, sorry about it. Like, I literally failed it so bad that I failed every second of it. So he's like, okay, I'll leave and live my life being a wanderer and life sucking. But our boy Utnapishtim's wife, she feels a little bad, even though she baked in-your-face loaves for Gilgamesh for 7 days straight. She goes, oh, man, like, I feel bad for him. Hey, Utnapishtim, let's give him a present. And Utnapishtim goes, yeah, okay, fine. I can't give you eternal life. However, there's a water plant that lives near here. If you dive down and grab it, it's covered in thorns, so it's going to fuck up your hands. However, if you can manage that, pull up the plant, it doesn't give you eternal life. However, what I got was, because it was pretty sketchy, it has the properties to rejuvenate your youth.
Yeah, that's kind of how I took it too.
I'm sure they were like, mash it up or put it under your tongue or whatever old-timey way. He says, take this plant, it will rejuvenate your youth. But I got the impression that it was a one-time, like if you used it once, bam. So Gilgamesh says, oh, cool, great. So he goes, gets the plant, it rips up his hands, obviously. And we've had a couple of instances in this half of the story where Gilgamesh is a complete douchebag. He was a dick to the wine goddess. He's been a dick to literally everybody. He fucked up Urshanabi's boat. Dick from stem to stern, this half. However, when he gets this plant, the first thing he thinks of are his people.
Yeah, that surprised me.
Because he says, oh shit, I got this plant. He's like, I'm going to go back home, plant it, cultivate it, give it to every man, woman, and child of my kingdom, rejuvenate them, and get them, as a thank you for me being a bitch for so long. And this is an apology. Then, and only then, will he take some.
Yeah, last of all.
So, yeah, feels like a good move. Solid move. Way to go, Gilgamesh. And not only that, he then lets us in a little guiltily. He says, then I'll just grow it all the time. And every time I'm old, I'll just take another one. Like, seems like a highly exploitable system.
Yeah.
Sure.
Essentially immortal.
I feel like secretly that might have been the thing that Utnapishtim would have given him anyway. Whatever.
Yeah, I would agree to that. That's probably where he's going to go anyways.
Yeah, I feel like if he had stayed up the 7 days and nights, he would have been like, here, take this thing. It's highly exploitable. But he failed. They did the in-your-face loaves, and his wife felt so bad. She's like, just give it to him. So
it's because he failed immediately is why she did
yes.
it.
So he's so happy. He's like a child. He runs to Urshanabi, and he goes, look, Urshanabi, I've got this magic plant. And he tells him the whole plan. He says, I'm going to cultivate it. I'll give some to you if you want. Then I'll just, we'll grow it in Uruk, and voila, eternal life. However, he is so happy that he gets stupid again. And it with almost no ceremony, Gilgamesh decides when they're traveling back to take a bath.
Yeah, by a well.
So he goes to this well. He goes, you know what I need right now? A celebration bath. So he goes to take a bath, and in the well that he is bathing lies a serpent. This serpent, he loves him, the smell of some rejuvenating flower.
What did the name of the flower was? The old man will shall feel young again.
Yes, that was
something tedious like that.
Yeah, old man shall feel young again, or something ridiculous.
We also missed the part where Gilgamesh took the bath and got the clothes that won't age.
Right.
Yeah,
I totally forgot about that. So who gave him those?
I think he got them from Utnapishtim because that was like.
Oh, right.
That was the first thing he did after he woke up.
You're right. I totally forgot. Utnapishtim, before he leaves with the plant, he says, okay, now it's time to stop sulking, you bitch. Throw off. Yeah. That's one of the things he says. He says, when you go to get the plant, take those fucking skins off, throw them in the ocean, and let them take them away. I'm going to give you clothes that are literally indestructible until you get home. Wear them.
Yeah.
So
wear these clothes.
He is now dressing nice, got the plant, decides to take his bath. The serpent loves the smell of man will be young again. Literally wraps his tail around the plant and runs off with it. And that's it. Like, our boy Gilgamesh loses his ticket to immortality simply because after they had gotten across the Sea of the Dead. Now, keep that in mind. He cannot go back because another thing is, after this whole thing with Utnapishtim and Urshanabi and yada, so Utnapishtim is so pissed that he let Gilgamesh across that he says, fuck you, I hate your guts, and also you're not welcome here anymore.
Yeah, Urshanabi's just not welcome anymore.
Urshanabi's whole thing is going back and forth from the land of the dead or the land of the gods to the land of the mortals. And now he is denied that. Whatever. Okay. And it just seems like he's totally cool with it. So moral of the story is the bath he took and the serpent who stole his flower is on the other side of his, so a point of no return. That's what I'm getting at. And that sucks. He doesn't lose it in a battle. A monster does not take it. He simply loses it while taking a bath.
Yeah, and he cries by the well.
Yeah, he cries and he tells Urshanabi he's sad. He goes, oh man, I'm so sad, Urshanabi. Oh man, that sucks. I was going to give everybody eternal life and now I can't. And we're so close to the end and we have, at this point, Gilgamesh still has not learned his lesson. He's still pining after immortality, which has now been lost to him once and for all after being so close at hand. He does the next best thing. He makes Urshanabi the new Enkidu, essentially, because
after they have no conversations, he just it's like, hey, you're my buddy now.
They basically because the door slams shut for both of them. Gilgamesh can't go back because Urshinabi is no longer welcome in the land of the gods. So he basically says, hey, Urshinabi, come with me to Uruk and check it out. And he does.
Yeah, look up on my wall.
Yeah. He says, get up on my wall, check out Uruk, tell me what you think. He does, apparently. But the next thing to happen is Gilgamesh dies. Like, he says, Urshinabi, get up on my walls, check shit out. He gets up, he checks it out. Gilgamesh does succumb to death. We never get confirmation. He gets over it. Maybe he spent his every day in anxiety. We do not know. All we know that is he dies.
That's pretty much it. He goes home, tells us stories about where he went, and then he dies.
Yeah, he basically writes down the tale that we just read on the tablets, the stone tablets. And so Shamash sort of ruminates a little bit, I think. He says, kinghood was always yours. You were crafted by the gods. So that was all. You were always going to be a ruler of men.
Yeah, that was your destiny.
Yeah, godhood, immortality never was.
No.
We never get confirmation. I assume and hope that Gilgamesh got over it and ruled Uruk good. And I think he did, or rather did, because the next, because when you think it's done, you're like, okay, Gilgamesh is dead. The moral is this: we should have an out. But then we get another huge long section of people making offerings to the gods and offerings to. So that's why I think he probably did reconcile with death, because everybody still loved him and he wasn't a mopey bitch the rest of his life. Friendship saved Gilgamesh from being a dick. Loss made him unstable, which I can do for the most of us. But I guess maybe that's also an allegory for civilization. If your inspiration that kept you on track, let's say an allegory is to Rome, if your Roman leader and or advisor who kept you on the straight and narrow goes away, you're in the weeds. If you don't have a support system,
you're going to be unhinged.
And it's kind of a story of settling also, because he and Urshinabi, they don't say explicitly that they're friends forever, but he invites him to live with them in Uruk, and he says, get up on my wall and check it out. It's pretty cool.
I felt like the second half of the story is so different from the first half. And any major character from the first half of the story doesn't really matter. Yeah,
we lose everything because, he loses Uruk because he is reclaimed by the wild. After Enkidu dies, he goes back, he puts on animal skins. Maybe that's the moral of the second half, sort of in a roundabout, really convoluted way, is even if you lose what was keeping you good, you can always refind it. It's not gone forever.
Yeah, maybe.
Because he does come back and he obviously does rule Uruk in a pleasant manner because his subjects still love him. That was another thing too, is it wasn't just the people of Uruk, but all the kingdoms around set bonfires and they did shit for him. Gilgamesh was a great dude. It's just kind of a bummer that the boatman, his whole thing, his boat gets destroyed by Gilgamesh. Then Gilgamesh gets his ass kicked out of the place he lives half the time, and he loses his job, and he still is yeah, I guess I'll be your friend, Gilgamesh. I got nothing left. What is he gonna do?
I got nothing else to do. I guess I'll be your buddy now.
Yeah, he can't set his foot on the land of the gods, and the water that separates them will literally kill him. So he just, I would like to think that when they roll into Uruk, because when he and Enkidu roll into Uruk, they're both treated like heroes. Everybody loves Enkidu. I would like to think that they would roll in and God, Urshinabi, Urshinabi would be expecting an Enkidu style welcome.
Yeah.
But it's just totally quiet. Everyone's just going about their market business, and Urshinabi's what the fuck? I lost everything, you motherfucker.
I was promised good things.
But when you think about it, Urshinabi also not immortal. So his whole boat shtick probably wasn't paying the bills.
No.
No, but whatever. That's the thing. Since it predates everything, it's the first written fable. All of our story structure is bonkers. The myth gets really convoluted and watered down at points because you want Gilgamesh to cope, but all the repetition is like so like, oh my God, it's like head against a brick wall type repetition.
When he was going through the mountain, I was bouncing my head off my
woof.
my headrest.
The first half moves so fast. Like it's so weird because here's the thing about old timey myths, and it'll go with the Odyssey, it goes with the Iliad, it goes with Dante's Inferno. The first like half is always gangbusters, and then they don't know where to go, or they lose track of what was happening, or like they move, something happens and it goes to shit. Even back then, 4,000 years ago, sequels sucked. You should have just stopped with Enkidu dying. Be like, yeah, I'm sorry, it's sad, but thank you for bringing me to civilization. Instead, we got a real emo road trip. And since it wasn't like a... Here's the thing about a road trip. You need a buddy. You need a traveling companion. This is just a sad dude telling passersby and or people he assaults on the road his boring ass story, and it sucks.
Yeah, the second half was not.
Oh, I kind of like toward the end when Urshinabe's like, yeah, I'll be your buddy. I figured, okay, maybe something... We'll have some sort of redemption. Like, oh, we'll find friendship after all. That is one thing among many that does not perish because mankind has an indomitable spirit. Nope. It's just like, yeah, be my buddy, Urshinabe. Come to my birthday party. And they goes, yeah, cool. And then later Gilgamesh died. The end. What the fuck? Like, it's so... It ends so unceremoniously. But
it really would have been a tighter ending if, like... After Enkidu died, that it literally tied itself up with
even if you wanted to keep in the 7 days of crying until because I kind of like that aspect of the story where he is so committed to his friendship with Enkidu that he literally will not let him go until what were they called, the Anunnaki?
Yeah.
So the Anunnaki are the keepers of the dead and like the gods of the world and the dead.
Anunnaki?
Anunnaki?
They were the judges.
No, the Anunnaki, the people who brought him, they collected him.
Yeah.
The Anunnaki are the judges, but the Anunnaki are the people who, because like, it sort of felt like they kept trying to come and get him, but he wouldn't let them until the maggot showed up.
Yeah, that's kind of how I saw it too.
And I feel like this is also just a personal vision, but like in my head, the Anunnaki feel like, have you seen Spirited Away?
Yes.
So the ghost that follows her around, the faceless, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So just a black figure with a Japanese kabuki mask on, essentially. That's what I kind of see. I realize that's a cultural misstep, but maybe a Sumerian mask, but just these sort of like formless, sort of ghostly people who sort of show up and take the dead. And that's the thing too, because Sumerian mythology has a god for the dead and a god of the underworld. So I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop and Gilgamesh to be like, hey, when I die, I'll be reunited with my buddy Enkidu because he will be in the land of the dead and so will I. But it's never touched on.
Well, they talk about her once for like half a line, and that's all they ever mention about the goddess of death. I
kept thinking they have to have their version of Hades. They have to have their version of the underworld that you go to, that you are essentially as you were in living form, but you're merely a shade. Like, I kept thinking for that and waiting for like the epic bro hug between Gilgamesh and Enkidu, but there's no underworld. It's just like they cease to be.
It never comes up.
So is this the only religion where they don't have an afterlife? They must have, but why didn't it make it into the Epic of Gilgamesh? Why didn't he at any point be like, see you in the afterlife, Gilgamesh? Like, as he's dying, like, come on, man. But nope.
I'm coming for you, friend.
Yeah, nothing. And that's kind of also what I was expecting the first time I went through this, because I wanted the second half of the epic to be the logical step. Okay, I was crazy, and Enkidu shows up. He is ripped from me by the gods. Now it's time for a fuck you world tour as I run through the underworld, fucking shit up to retrieve my buddy.
That's how I thought it was gonna go.
But no, he just becomes ultra selfish and ultra scared and super pouty, and he becomes a toddler. And he goes, I don't want to die. I want to live forever. And he goes crying to his mom, and he goes crying to his dad, and he goes crying to his patron saint, and he goes crying to every god. And at each step, he's turned away. It is the least satisfying fable ever. But again, it's the first recorded one, so we're going to give it a pass.
Yeah, it gets some leeway.
I think I'm going to get further translations of it and see if they don't shake out a little differently, because I'm sure there's more here than what we're getting in this one translation. So
I looked up the flood.
Okay,
just because I wanted to make sure I understood the directions, or kind of like what the story was saying about it. And apparently there are some people that feel like the flood was added to the story, like after the fact.
So how would that have happened though? Because they were all on those stone tablets.
From my understanding, from what I've read, and I didn't really go too far, down the rabbit hole, but it was like a tablet in itself was describing the flood.
Okay. And it was just sort of inserted?
Yeah, and it was just like added in with Etnapishin's story.
But here's the thing: it is a pivotal piece of the epic, though, because without
it really is. Without
the story of the flood, we have no reason for Utnapishtim to get eternal life.
Yeah,
I find it hard to believe that it's not a set. And here's the thing: also, there are like Gilgamesh as a character shows up in other poems, other stories, and other myths. This is, I think, just his origin story.
Yeah.
So maybe that's it. Like, you have to just sort of jump into the canon of Gilgamesh if it exists, because I'm sure this is his origin story and was recorded being chiseled onto stone. And I'm sure it was the Lovecraftian shit of his day, where it was just sort of open source and there were umpteen zillion Gilgamesh stories, but whatever. The first one obviously is going to be the worst one because it's going to have the most plot holes.
Yeah.
So, given that, I'm going to say that I recommend it, and I think if you are into classics and or mythology and or whatever, if you like old stories, I'm going to say check it out. Do you recommend this story, Randy?
Oh, I definitely do. And like I've explained it to a few people that I work with and a couple of my friends what the story is, and it's hard to kind of describe past the first half.
Yeah.
But it is definitely a good story, and everyone should at least experience it once.
Yeah, even though its initial and most probable like real allegory is that allusion to civilization over barbarism and or wilderness, the first half has so many human qualities that you could dissect it forever. The second one is merely the drawn out. It's a road trip with a grouchy teenager in the back seat.
It's a silent road trip.
Oh, it is a sullen, annoying, irrational, angry. It's the worst. We should have stopped at Enkidu's death because that's where it should be. This is like when I tell people, when you read the Divine Comedy by Dante, stick to the Inferno because it is diminishing returns with purgatory and paradise. It gets worse each time. After Enkidu's dead, cut your losses. You don't need to know that Gilgamesh does not get immortal.
Yeah, it doesn't really play into it at all.
But that being said, I will put in the caveat that other interpretations and or translations may save the second half. So we'll see what happens. Randy, thanks for coming on the show, man, and talking about the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Of course.
This, of course, has been the second half. I'm going to urge you again, if you did not heed my warning and listened anyway, listen to and or watch the first half. I will put a link in the show notes. Whatever. We're on Facebook, Twitter, the Teespring store. There'll be a link somewhere. Check out, the holidays are coming up. Flamingo Friday is every Friday. Jesus Christ. So whatever. I'm terrible at plugging, but if you want to get involved, you can, and there's a bunch of ways how. So, Randy, it's been a blast. This has been a classic dissection episode of FFOP Radio. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time on, the show.
For this. Try to.
Fistful of Podcasts Radio.